So your section is live. The streaming has started. You can take it from here.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, good evening, everyone. Um, you're welcome to this session, and I think we can start. Joy, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yes, please, you can take the floor.
Okay, I don't know if everyone can see me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching me from. I am aware that we are in different time zones, so it could be whichever time for you. My name is Joy Unene. I am a student at the University of Zambia pursuing my Bachelor of Arts in Project Management with International Relations. I happen to also be the Secretary of the Youth Mappers chapter at UNZA. Forgive me for my voice. I am recovering from a cold, so please let me know if I'm not too clear or if there's any breaking at any point. So I believe it's after lunch and people must be stuffed. And usually presenting after lunch, people are quite tired and have had so much knowledge being fed to them. So I'll make sure to make my presentation very precise and straight to the point. So at this moment, I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna share my screen so that I am able to access my presentation. Okay, so it's still loading. Like I said, I'm Joy Unene. So my presentation is about unleashing the power or potential of open mapping and local development in Africa. This basically talks about how the community, individuals, and organizations can work together for us to ensure that we have democratized land use, public participation, address the challenges that are faced, and infrastructure and environmental sustainability and social equity. In my introduction, it talks about how Africa's rapid development brings about both opportunities and challenges, and an open map facilitates change. It supports community development, debt governance, infrastructure planning, environmental sustainability, and social equity. Technological advances and the use of open data facilitate active participation. So, sorry for that. Okay, so basically here we have how open map can be used as a transparency in the governance through democratized land use and encourage public participation. Here we have disaster preparedness, transparency and accountability, information decision-making in infrastructure planning, cultural and indigenous, knowledge preservation, community-led urban planning. So I'll quickly run through these and just talk about what each of them briefly mean and how they can be of help to us. So mapping and in relation with governance and transparency through disaster preparation gives the government and the aid agencies a more well-planned of what's on the ground in preparation for any disaster that is likely to come about. As we know, disasters happen and sometimes it's beyond our control. If our open mapping system is readily available and is constantly being updated, it makes it easier for them to know how they can help and what they're going to help with, and in what manner or what length the disaster has contributed to a particular area. We also have transparency and accountability. I think open maps give a lot of transparency and accountability, not only to the aid agencies, but also the government as well. I think when you partner with the community and the community knows what's to be done and the community gives you a proper view of what they need in the particular area, it makes it easy for them not only to be part of that particular activity at a time, but it also gives the government a lot of transparency and accountability for what they're going to do and how it's going to be done. And you can easily be held accountable even when resources are mismanaged or when what was promised has not been done. The second one is information decision making and infrastructure planning. So here we look at how excuse me. Here we look at how decision making can be made with a close communication with the community of what should be done in a particular area. I'm not sure about where you people are coming from, but here in Zambia, a lot of planning has been done haphazardly. You find in residential areas, you have filling stations that shouldn't be there. You have malls, you have drinking places, for example. And I think these bring a lot of commotion because, especially with issues to do with filling stations, any gas leak or any explosion that takes place in that particular area is going to distort the whole residential area, hence losing a lot of lives. So engaging with the community and knowing what's right for them and what's best for them, and if the right authorities are put a particular area, it helps in this infrastructure planning. We also have the cultural and indigenous knowledge preservation. This comes about where we know that some places and some things are very still kept traditional, for lack of better terms, and it helps to preserve culture and heritage sites. Mapping throughout the years, I think, is able to put out a particular area that shouldn't be touched or that should be dealt with a certain level of care, for lack of better terms. This is because the culture must still go on and the knowledge of a particular area should be preserved, because as much as development marks for what we need in the future, I think it's very important to also know that our culture should continue and that indigenous should be kept. We also have community-led urban planning. This could be easily married to the decision making in infrastructure planning. It basically still talks about how the community should be the one spearheading these things, because they live in a particular area, they know what they need, and they know how best these things can be done. So mapping plays a very big role in the transparency of governance. And if it's something that can be fully put up, this can be things that can help us move to greater heights. Here we're going to talk about how this is a quick case study of how mapping has helped in different places and how it's been held accountable for these things. We have the Ushahidi. I'll ask my Kenyan friends to help me with that pronunciation in case I'm wrong. This is in Kenya. The Ushahidi basically means a testimony or witness. This came about after the post-elections in 2009, where they came up with this platform that enables and allows anyone who is faced with a crisis to just go through where this particular crisis is happening, whether it be in their area or an area that someone else knows about. And it easily helps facilitate real-time reporting of crises, including violence and electoral fraud, enabling authorities and aid agencies to report more quickly. So this particular platform, I think, is very good because you are able to just put up what's going on at a particular place and where you are at. And the authorities can easily mobilize themselves by putting through, and these maps, actually, when this is done, the mapping comes into play. The mapping comes into play because particular areas are put out on a map and we see what exactly is going in a particular area and how it can be helped. The other one is going to be here, right here in Lusaka, Zambia, and OpenStreetMap, where communities strengthen mapping, urban planning, infrastructure development, and disaster risk reduction, provides valuable information to local authorities. This will draw back to the time when Zambia, in particular Lusaka, suffered from cholera. I should think this is 2019, 2018. This was a very crucial time for us. And it's through this mapping that we were able to, that the mappers were, that the community and the government as a whole was able to see where exactly this particular pandemic is stemming from and how it's going to continue to lead to other areas. So this helps mitigate and stop it before it spreads to other places. This can be married to the Ebola response that happened in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Here we see how the crowdsourcing mapping significantly supported resources, efforts through better coordination of response, resource allocation, and accountability, as they made sure to break the count. The last one as well is what happened about 8 months ago in Malawi, where the floods attacked the place. I believe a lot of us here helped Malawi restructure and see what damage was caused in the place and how people could come through and help. So that was a very good thing, and we can see how it's actively helping. Here we look at the enhancing of, Here we look at the enhancing infrastructure planning and management. So open mapping in Africa can dramatically improve infrastructure planning and management by providing valuable geographical information, protecting collaboration, promoting collaboration, and encouraging informed decision-making through real-time monitoring and maintenance. Here we see that open mapping coupled with remote sensing technologies enables real-time monitoring of infrastructure conditions. I think I mentioned this before, to say you're able to monitor the progress that's being done and people are able to be held accountable for it, which leads to the next point of project visibility and accountability. It creates transparency in infrastructure projects, allowing the public to scrutinize progress and expenditure. We also have how it's cost effective in planning and the smart cities and urban planning, which is the decision making can use mapping data to optimize urban development, ensuring effective land use and infrastructure placement. So this is how we can see it enhancing in our day-to-day life and how it can bring about so much in the future. Here I'm going to talk about the open mapping for environmental sustainability. Here we're going to talk about biodiversity, environmental conservation, land use planning and disaster management, safeguarding natural resources, enhancing community resilience as well. Biodiversity clearly just talks about the incorporation of individuals of the community or people with the ecosystem. And here we can see how through the use of mapping tools, you're able to identify different ecosystems, such as the forests, the wetlands, the marine areas, and the marine areas. So you're able to see how the ecosystem can still be running through and how these things may not be able to attack back the people at a given time, over a given period of time. Under environmental conservation, we are looking at how species distribution, and here we can talk about the mapping of species distribution and of plants. This is to see how we can conserve the plant and the animals over a period of time. Here I'll even give an example of what's going on here in Zambia over the confusion about the Lower Zambezi and the minerals that lie out there. So in case you don't know, Lower Zambezi is a national park that's in Zambia, and there are minerals that have been found there, and people actually want to destroy the park for in order for them to get those minerals. But when you look at it on the long run, what happens to the forest that's there? What happens to the animals and the place that they called their home for the longest period of time? So then it becomes a whole distort. But through mapping, we're able to see how these species and where exactly these species can contribute to the deterrent of a target conservation through mapping. We also have safeguard of natural resources, which can be easily married to the environmental conservation and enhancing community resilience. Sorry, I am running out of breath. Here we're going to talk about the promoting of mapping, and we look at identifying resource parties, community-led chapters, mapping social vulnerabilities, access to public services, inclusive urban planning. So community-led chapters basically talks about a place where if we can establish places, chapters such as the youth mappers, and if these places can take time to educate and train the people on mapping and how it can help and how it will help develop our countries and our nation as a whole, it easily helps to promote mapping. We also have mapping social vulnerabilities. Here you have to be sure to identify the places that struggle with the most and that are currently going through a lot of sorry for that. Identify the places that have crises and ways in which you can help reach to them immediately something wrong happens, and able to access public services to them. So sometimes services are not evenly spread throughout countries. They're not evenly spread to the rural and urban areas. And most times it's not because they are not eligible to be spread there, or because those places don't matter, but it could deal with issues of lack of knowledge. People just don't know about it. People don't know how this open mapping can help. People don't know how they can contribute in our community and in the world at large. So it becomes very difficult. Also talks about inclusive of urban planning, which more or less is the same thing. Here I'm going to talk about the challenges that are faced as sustainable open planning. Sorry.
You have 4 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so quickly here, I'm just going to peruse through the challenges that are faced and how they can be mitigated. So challenges, you have limited community interest or involvement, lack of knowledge and skills among local people, lack of diversity and lack of participation in cartographic community, little community is involved. and these can easily be sustained by actively involving the community in mapping processes, conduct events, trainings, actively solicitate participation from diverse groups, including diverse races, gender, age groups, create and include an inclusive environment that values and respect opinion, provide training programs in mapping tools, techniques, and data interpretation, foster a culture of continuous learning to build and maintain community capacity. So basically here we're talking about the challenges that are always faced. And I think these are not the first time these challenges have been spoken about. The continuous challenges that have constantly been fostered, and solutions have been given, but we still seem to face the same challenges. In my own perspective of how these challenges should be mitigated and how it can be done, I always talk about how where two or three are gathered, as long as people have the same goal, things will still keep going. Sadly, we're in a time where our generation is very easily gets bored and we don't see need for certain things. But I think it goes back to self-reflection and what you see the world to be and what you want the world to be in the next, and what you want your children to find for generations to come. So it's really a self-reflection of what you can do. If you do start doing something and the next person can join along, before you know it, you're going to be 100, 200 in a room. Sometimes it's not about the people outside there, it's a self-reflection, and it takes you to look at you and see what you are doing about the particular situation. So I think due to time, this should be the end of my presentation, with conclusion to say open mapping can dramatically improve regional development in Africa by democratizing geography, empowering citizens, and promoting sustainable communities, sharing useful models for different sectors. So with that said, this is the end of my presentation. Unless there are any questions, otherwise, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Joy, for the wonderful presentation. It was elaborative and quite insightful. If we have anyone with a question, kindly you can type in the chat section or just raise your hand so that it can be responded to. Someone is speaking? Okay, if we have none, I think our time is up. We need to start the next session. So thank you very much for showing up and have a lovely afternoon. So I'm going to end the session. Thank you.